Alright, now that we're practically at the start of a new year, it is Oscar season, so let's talk Oscar murmurs. Now, a little bit earlier in the month of December, we got a few shortlist nominations for the Oscars, which is being held on Mario Day 2024. I was keeping an eye on this news to see if they would give a shortlist of some sort about animated features, and no, they didn't. They have done a full list of animated shorts, of which I have seen practically none of them, but maybe I'll get around to making a video on that if you'd like me to. However, despite the fact that the one animation category didn't get mentioned in this mini shortlist news, there will be more later on in January, but also, animated movies have still made a few notes in other categories, potentially for the first time. And so I wanted to talk about them and give my personal thoughts on it. Now currently there are about 30 animated movies from 2023 that are all vying for that shortlist element, which we'll see a little later on. These include Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, Suzume, a nice little anime series, the first Slam Dunk, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, of course, and the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and I'll be very interested to see which of those even make the shortlist. There's all sorts of interesting conversation spins you can give for all of them. However, if there is one other category that's really stepped forwards and given a little bit of an animation progress, it would be for the category of original score, of all things. I mean, I guess it makes a lot of sense. Doesn't matter what format you're in, music is still music. And here there are 3 different mainline animated features. Whether these 3 will also be powerhouses in the main animated feature role, we'll just have to see, but I think all 3 of these come from major studios. Now the first one we have is one I wasn't actually expecting to see. It is Pixar's Elemental, and their music of original score being potentially one of the best of the year. Now I personally wasn't particularly hooked onto the music when I was first watching this movie, but I'm currently playing it under this little paragraph now, and yeah, it sounds like a pretty classical Pixar-esque soundtrack. Though of course usually when it comes to Pixar soundtracks, I usually have an extra element of adoring them because I've got that nostalgia for it, you know? When you first hear that opening thrall for the reef at Finding Nemo, that just really hits something, you know? Or the beepity boops of Wall-E. That's like phenomenal stuff. This sounds like, yeah, a modern equivalent for something new. I like that you can hear a little bit of running water in the background, you know, they use some interesting elements and instruments. They use, no pun intended there. And yeah, it sounds like a very classical Pixar bit. However, at the same time, a Pixar movie being nominated for original score almost sounds like it's just routine at this point, with all of their first movies being at least nominated and winning a handful of times, and Cars is the first one to not get original score, but it still got nominated for Best Original Song. However, in later years, they've almost never even been nominated for an Academy Award for original score other than winning with Soul. I guess the competition has rised up since then, so I guess this is a return to form? Not sure if I'd exactly call them an underdog though, you know? Now, sharing the limelight of original score, you then also have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and this one as well, I would kind of say I'm not quite as happy with compared to the past. I really love the Into the Spider-Verse soundtrack. I love the way they do the DJ mixing for all sorts of sounds, and they did bring it back with things like when Miles is fighting alongside a goose, there's a goose screech being incorporated in, but I don't know, I don't think it hit me the same way. At the same time, there was all sorts of meme presents that showcased all sorts of sounds that I've internalized a lot. I mean, you know the main one, Miguel O'Hara. Yeah, that sound. Maybe it makes a lot of sense, and there's a lot of nice original scoring for this second movie. I think it's good. I think I prefer the original, but very much well placed as an original score. And then third in line is another powerhouse from an entirely different district. You have, of course, Welcome to the Halfway Mark. If you're interested in seeing more, do subscribe. Let us know your thoughts so far and what you think of the Oscars in general and what you'd rate as maybe what should get going into succeeding territory. Or tell me what you think is going to be snubbed. Let's hear about the more dramatic side of things, eh? I don't know if talking about the Oscars would ever be something my audience is interested in or making our own Oscars, but let me know. I'll be very curious to hear about it. And now that you've made it halfway through, thank you very much. Let's get back to the main thing, shall we? You have, of course, the incredibly artsy Boy and the Heron. Now, the score to the Studio Ghibli movies are a real piece of magic. Captivating audiences from all over the globe, I am not surprised at all that this has an Oscar nomination, and I wouldn't be surprised if Miyazaki completely dominates the Oscars this year. Not only because they create incredibly powerful stuff, but also the Academy Awards a lot of elitism and biases, and, you know, having an old man experienced god of animation coming in with a new project, of course they're going to be over-platformed no matter how much they deserve it, you know? Now, listening to the actual soundtrack itself, yeah, you know, it's quiet, somber, sound It's piano. What more can you ask for? Musical scores don't have to be this big, crazy DJ booth push of the industry every time. Sometimes something that's just down to earth and striking at the core is enough. And I would be a fool to say that this soundtrack doesn't hit or doesn't matter. I'm sure some songs here are going to become eternalized into the TikTok ether soon enough, if it hasn't already as a sound, once this soundtrack becomes more heard and readily available. Now, Miyazaki is not a stranger to awards at all. Back in 1979, won an award immediately for the Mainichi Film Awards. And when you look at his lists of nominations and wins, he just is green across the board practically. And when it comes to the Academy Award Oscars specifically, he started almost immediately back in 2003, winning Best Animated Feature for Spirited Away. And considering that was the first movie he made since that category was invented, means he clearly made his mark. Move on to 2006 for Howl's Moving Castle, and he won again, and he was nominated again for Best Animated Feature. And then similarly again with The Wind Rises in 2014, again another nomination. Now these have all been mainstay full-on animated feature successes, and considering animation is a massive disadvantage in these Oscars, it's probably not a surprise that there hasn't been much presence in other categories before, so the fact that they're now all breaching out here means, of course, Miyazaki is making a presence as well in that form. But yes, literally 3 out of 4 of his most recent works have gotten nominations to Oscars, and with his status now as markedly legendary, I wouldn't be surprised to see all the more stuff from him this year. And going even further than that, when it comes to the Golden Globes, which is a nice precursor to the Oscars to see the vibe of what's going on, The Boy and the Heron has been nominated for, again, Best Animated and Best Original Score as well. With him consistently winning or being nominated for all sorts of awards, this is leading to the point that Miyazaki might get the very elusive accolade of joining Pete Docter as the only 2 people with nominations in 4 different categories. But of course, we don't even know the shortlist for the other categories yet, so there could very well be more. Now, other presences we do have for animated movies in other places all go back to Spider-Verse 2, with, again, music, but not original score, original song, with Am I Dreaming being potentially given an Oscar. And then another one from Spider-Verse, a very interesting one here, visual effects. Nice to see animation allowed in the visual effects category, since there is, a good little bit of overlap there. And to be fair, Spider-Verse does an incredible amount of things. I would, I'm biased, so I would put my marker there, but it's definitely something worth looking into. Now, if my timeline of events is correct, supposedly we will be getting final nominations released January 23rd, 2024. And over to then, I'll definitely tell you all my thoughts properly on everything, mostly animated. Let's keep things, contained. And then the Academy Awards ceremony of 2024 begin March 10th. Good old Mario Day. I, for one, am not really a big fan of the Oscars. There's a lot of elitism, not a lot of entertainment. It's very not to mention the judges are stupid. They don't seem to understand movies despite being given the platform to specifically judge them. And there's all sorts of recency bias and under-acknowledging animation as actual cinema, both from the hosts and the judges, because the kid watch things with their kids. How dare they? But I'll be happy to put in a proper discussion about the nominations that go on, what I think might have been snubbed. I'm sure everything's going to be snubbed in some form. And hey, maybe I'll even make a live stream of my own version of the Oscars around the same time. We'll see. I'm thinking about it. Who knows? I've made some beta screens that I'll have to animate and work out how to format. But yeah, tell me if you're interested in it. I'll get an idea by how the views of this video do, but also let me know in the comments. For now though, I'll leave it off there. Those are just the murmurings as we come somewhat closer to Oscar season. Hopefully it'll be more entertaining, but a little less dramatic than last time, eh? For now, my name's been Daz. You didn't really care. Tell me your thoughts. I'd love to hear your opinions on actual movie judging discussions, and I'll see you in a little bit.